pleasures. Often Kathy would long for Barry's arms around her, or his lips on hers. Not, of course, that she could say that to him, but still she missed the closeness they used to share. She knew he wanted no more children till he got a job, but still. She was not to know that Barry realized how quickly kisses and cuddles could lead to other things, and he couldn't risk it. If it wasn't for his in-laws helping, the 2 children he had would go to bed time and enough with empty bellies. It tore his heart out that he was not able to provide for his own weans. God forbid he would bring another into the world to the same fate. Lizzie and Danny were the only ones Barry could be natural with. He'd never been an inactive man before unemployment, and had never given much of a thought to the children either. Their rearing would be down to Kathy, like his had been down to his mother. But he'd been laid off before Danny's birth, and now the boy was 3 going on 4, and Lizzie 6.5. At first, like many others, Barry had gone to meetings, listened to rallying calls, and taken part in marches and demonstrations, but all to no avail. He knew he had to get out from under Kathy's feet during the day, but hanging around street corners was not for him, and there was no money for the pub. So he began to go for long walks. He tended to veer away from the town, a thankless place to visit when he had money for nothing in the city centre shops. At first, his feet took him towards Calthorpe Park, or often as far as Cannon Hill, where he'd walk hour upon hour and return home tired and more dispirited than ever. However, one day, tired of the same route and with his stomach yawning in emptiness, he turned down Bristol Passage into Bristol Street, and from there on into Suffolk Street, coming out at the top end of town by the town hall, and there he saw the lending library. Barry had never been inside the library. There had been no occasion to. Although he could read, since he'd left school there had been little leisure to do so. Except for now, he thought, and he went in, glad of the blast of warm air, for the day outside was raw and his clothes were pitifully threadbare and thin. It was very quiet also, quiet like Barry had never met before. He'd grown up in a small back-to-back house, first among a clutch of brothers, and then with a family of his own, where noise was part of life, and everyone knew everyone else's business. The silence of the library was like a balm to Barry's bruised soul, and the only sound was that of his boots on the wooden floor. And then he saw the papers, such an array of them laid out, presumably for anyone to read. He sat down, and as he read first one and then another, his hunger was forgotten, and the time sped by, although the papers made frightening reading. After a few days of intense study of the political situation in Germany, he was more aware than most of the mad little Austrian ruling the country. He knew that if only half the tales coming out of that beleaguered place were true, the man was a dangerous and vicious maniac. And he wondered how long the rest of Europe was going to stand by and watch. He said none of this at home, for God alone knew Kathy had enough on her plate, and it would serve no purpose frightening any of the family, possibly needlessly. He progressed from the papers to books to fill the long winter evenings, and was choosing some one day when his eyes alighted on the children's section of the library. He could buy little for his children, on 26 shillings a week for himself and Kathy, and 2 shillings extra each for Lizzie and Danny. But the lending library was free, and so he began to bring books home for them, and read to them regularly. Lizzie loved her daddy. He had more patience than her mother, and was gentler somehow. He'd taught her to love books and write her name before she went to school. She liked nothing better than to snuggle down in the chair with him, her on one side and Danny on the other, and listen while her daddy read to them. And that was how Kathy found them.